Alright, so I've had the channel up for a little while, and I was kind of thinking that I should probably tell y'all what happened to me. So, May 1st, I was riding my motorcycle, to go see my wife at work. She was my fiance at the time, and I got all the way over to La Cantera and the Rim in San Antonio. It would be the west side, all the way from, like, the northwest side, all the way from the northeast side where I lived. And I was gonna go see her because it was our anniversary, May 1st, 2013. And I was sitting at a stoplight behind another car turning left, and the guy that caused the accident came off the highway, and he hit the car behind me, knocked it out of the way, and it hit another car, and then he kept coming and hit me, knocked my bike out into the middle of the intersection, and pinned my leg between his car and the car in front of me. Now, the pain I felt from that was nothing that I've ever been able to come close to describing, I don't think. I felt it in my face, but I didn't hit anything with my face. It was like a white flash. I don't know if you've ever been punched in the face, you know what I'm talking about. You get this white flash in your eyes, and it just I don't know. So I felt the pain of my leg being crushed all over my body, and I turned around and motioned him to move backwards so I could get my leg out, and I kind of sat down on his hood, and I was trying to get my belt off. Luckily there was two paramedics and another army medic, I think, at the scene, in their own cars, just there, and one of them got their belt on my leg, and they held it until the ambulance got there, and that's when they put a tourniquet on it and got me loaded up, and it only took like 5 minutes to get to the hospital from there. And I woke up with a halo on my leg, keeping it straight. Like, I guess they call it a Taylor spatial frame. And there was black sponge all in it, and they had a wound vac on it.
What is that? It doesn't need to be locked.
And I don't know, I think I was worried more about my bike and mad about him crushing it. So I was being told for 2 weeks that they were gonna have to take it off, and I begged them. I cried, and they finally gave in and decided that they would try and save it. So I had 18 surgeries in the first month and 22 days after the accident, and that's how long I stayed in the hospital. I stayed in San Antonio until the end of 2013. My wife had already moved back here for work, and she was living with my aunt. I was staying with my mom down in Brownstown, Texas, and she would take me back to San Antonio for appointments and stuff. So I was able to stay near my doctors at that point. Hi, baby. I had a pretty hard time in the hospital. I don't know if you could imagine being there for a month and 22 days, but it was not fun. The food got to be boring and bland, and they were shoving it down my throat at double the protein portions, so much so that at the end I was just eating fruit plates and sending half of that back because I wasn't moving. I was just sitting there, not using any energy other than
what is that?
healing, I suppose. For the first bit, I couldn't sleep very well. I was in the ICU, was having a lot of pain, and they had me on a heating blanket and whatnot for a little bit. And it just made it really hard to sleep. So they put me on Ambien, I believe, and that stuff, I'm sure with the concoction that I was already taking, had me hallucinating. My first vivid hallucination that I can remember was I had my own little private room with a glass wall and a TV, and that was it. My bed was in there, and the TV was at the end of my bed, and I remember closing my eyes and seemed like zombies were coming through the wall. Like the wall opened up and zombies were coming through the wall. So I was freaking out. I called my nurses and everything. I called my wife, and the hallucinations didn't stop. I don't know if they put two and two together that it was the medication that was getting to me or whatever, but I had more and more hallucinations. My wife came and stole my morphine drip with a limo full of women. I don't know what they were going to do with it, but I was pretty mad. And I called my nurse. I called her. The nurse called her. It was a big kerfuffle. And I got in a shootout at a trailer park with the police and a bunch of other people. I have no idea what was going on. It was crazy. A helicopter came to my room to take me down to the ER or the OR for some reason, and it wasn't just a normal helicopter. It was an ambulance with rotor blades and a tail, if you can imagine that. That was one of the funniest ones, I think. And my wife cracked up. She was just like, how did they get an ambulance up to your room? And how did you get out of your window into the ambulance? You know, I don't know. It was pretty funny. But another one, there was a mass casualty situation, and they turned the parking garage of the hospital into like a triage center / emergency room. And for some reason my mom was hurt and she was there, and my kids were hurt and they were there. That one was kind of terrifying to think about. Yeah, I didn't have a fun time. And that all those things lasted about like 2 weeks, it seemed. And my wife was there every step of the way. My fiance at the time, she stuck by me through the whole thing. Yeah, she's a very fantastic woman. Before I went down, I took a phlebotomy certificate course, and I passed the course and I was offered a job, but I wanted to move down to Texas and do pursue something there. My wife wanted to go to school, and I was going to go to school too. And I took the ASCP board certification test before I got in my accident, and I have pictures of me holding up my certificate when I was in the hospital. And if you know anything about that certification, it's only good for 3 years, and I was not able to walk for 3.5 years after my accident. So needless to say, I never worked as a phlebotomist. I ended up getting a job with one of my cousins, being a dye repairman, light machinist work, dye repair, working in presses and stuff. And I didn't really have a good time with that. I mean, the work was fun, but my leg was still pretty messed up. My tibia was crooked, and my fibula was fused with my tibia crooked, and I had to have it fixed. So I was walking on my ankle because my tibia was crooked, and my toes were turned out a bit. It was just very uncomfortable, and I never had a fun time walking. But I met a doctor in Royal Oak, and he was able to take the case and fix my leg. He straightened it and straightened my toes and everything, so I was walking normally again. And for about 2 years, I was able to work and walk without pain, for the most part. It was after my daughter Nadia was born, I started working at after Bella was born, I started working at a new place. And I worked there until my daughter Nadia was born, 2 years later. And we were doing our floor in our house, and somehow I bent the screw in my knee that was holding the rod together in there, and it caused an infection, and it blistered and exploded in the ER before I could even get back to see the doctor. So they were worried about infection on my hardware, and they decided to take it all out. And they put an antibiotic rod in there, and they told me that my leg was healed, there was bone there, I should be able to walk. And I did for about 2 months. And then my wife asked me to hand her a towel to get the kids out of the tub, and my foot was against the kickboard underneath the sink, and I twisted to give her the towel, and my leg stayed put, and it snapped. So I worked for another 2 weeks with it like that. I thought I just sprained my ankle or something. I'm used to pain in that leg and whatnot, but I can't really feel what goes on in there a whole lot. And then after the 2 weeks, I couldn't handle it anymore. I went to the ER, and they said there was like a 1/8-inch gap between the bone. So I think the only thing holding me upright was the antibiotic rod, and there were no screws in it. So I went back down to my doctor down in Royal Oak, and he came up with a plan to try and fix it. So there was bad bone in there. It just wasn't healed properly, wasn't good bone. So they took out 4 centimeters of bone and packed it with antibiotic beads, and then they put it in a tailor spatial frame and cut the top of my tibia and broke my fibula so that I could move everything down incrementally over, what did it take, 7 months, I think it took 7 months to incrementally move my leg 4 centimeters, and the bone filled in at the top. But 2 years later, February, actually we found out in December, I think, late November, early December, and he said that the bone wasn't healing, so it was calloused, and he scraped it a couple times in the meantime in those 2 years, so just trying to get it to heal. And I had a bone graft put in, commercial bone graft put in after he scraped it, and it still didn't heal. So he told me the bone was calloused, and he could do another surgery where he took a rib out with some muscle and a vein and artery or whatever it was, and he could replace the bone that was not good in my leg. And initially, to save my leg in San Antonio, they had already taken out my lat muscle, my back muscle, you know, the boxer muscle, the one on your back there. Rowers and bodybuilders have really big lats, and boxers and stuff, so I don't have one on my right side. And I have this big smiley face scar with a couple dots where they had the tube going in to suck out the excess fluid after they cut the muscle out, and they covered my tibia with it while I was down there in San Antonio, and that died within a week, and I lost a lot of blood, and I ended up getting some blood transfusions, and they came up with another plan to take a full thickness skin flap from my thigh. So they took the skin and fat off of my thigh right here, all the way down to about here, and you can kind of see a window into my muscles there, and there's my prosthetic. So, but that ended up taking, because they took a vein from this leg. You can see the scar here going all the way up to here. They took a vein and fixed all the other bad veins from the accident, and that's what I ended up taking. So I have a part of my thigh as my shin now, and even still, since I've had the amputation, I still do have that flap, a quarter, like a corner of it, as the front of my stump, my residual limb, if you will. And so I was done moving parts around. I was like, I can't keep doing this. I've had bone graft from my hip and my femur, and my femur is hollow now. Well, it has a rod in it, actually, because I broke it from it being hollow after the bone graft. I was riding a mini bike and broke it. That's another story I can tell later. But where was I? So yes, it was calloused and it wouldn't heal. So I told him I was done moving stuff around, and I was ready for it to be amputated. And this was 10 years minus 3 months from the day of my accident. And I had 2 months to grieve and talk to other amputees and talk to my prosthetist. Now that my prosthetist, the guy that makes my legs, he was the first guy that I talked to, and I liked him straight from the beginning, so that's the guy that I stuck with. And I really love that he he scans my leg for my liners and my sockets instead of casting, and I do have a another video of that happening with my liner on, getting scanned for my socket, my new socket that I have on now, and I'll put a link to that right here somewhere or something. So I like the guy, and I stuck with him, and he's gotten me 2 good legs already. But I had those 2 months to grieve and talk to him, and I went in on February 1st, 2023, and I was ready for the amputation, and I was a little scared, nervous, and whatnot. I've been through so many surgeries. At that point, 37. So surgery was not a big deal. I wasn't nervous about the surgery. I was scared about what was to come after my amputation. And what I found was that, like, it was like the world, the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt so much better. My leg was not in pain. I did have some tingling for a few months, but it was nothing compared to the pain that I was in prior, the 10 years prior to my surgery. So I was happy. I'm glad I had those 2 months to grieve. I'm glad I did the surgery. I chose to do the surgery, and I do not have any regrets. I do more now than I have done in the last 10 years. You could say that I got my life back, and I've had a lot of people tell me that they love seeing that I got my life back, and that's kind of what my whole YouTube channel is about. I want to show people that amputation is not a life-ending surgery. It is it's freeing. I'm able to do things now. I'm able to play with my kids. I'm able to run. I'm running on a treadmill at the gym. I'm working out. I'm living my life. I'm hiking, doing all kinds of things. So really, it's not a life ender.
What is going on?
It's new life, if you will. So that's my story. Thanks for listening to it, and give me a like and a subscribe. Thanks.